Brews and Banter.
Hi, Frank.
Hey, Roman.
This is Brews and Banter. We are at Freight Yard, and we have...
My name is Lou Sotherden. It's great to have you guys. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Lou. We've run into each other a couple of times at brew events, and it was always, we were excited to do our first women-owned, women-operated...
Women brewer.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's always tough with these festivals to kind of get this time, and we understand we don't want to occupy and take other people's time, but we appreciate you.
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. And today was solar eclipse.
Yeah.
So it was you had a great turnaround here. We arrived and it was busy.
Yeah.
We love it. Tell us, before we go into it, what we're drinking.
So I have the Hump Pale Ale.
Okay.
You have the Codnoy Cream
That's
Ale.
right, yep. So learn how to spell that.
Yeah. And you have the Ardboss Kolsch.
Kolsch, and it's delicious.
Thank you.
So give us a little background on what got you in interest to be a brewer.
Well, it's a good thing we've got beers here to talk over the story, because I was a foreign exchange student in between high school and college, and I spent a year in England. And England is known to be a pretty decent place for beer.
It could be worse, right?
Yeah. So 19 years old, I got to travel around the whole entire UK and taste a lot of beer and, learn what I liked and learn what other folks liked, and got to see a lot of the countryside. It was wonderful.
Sure.
So when I came back, of course, I was 19. I was like, nope, no more beer for another couple of years. But I really got a taste for Newcastle Brown Ale. So if you go downstairs on tap right now, we have the Newcastle Brown Ale that I chose to name after myself. So.
Why not, right? Yeah. Did you go outside of England?
Yes, I had the opportunity to travel down to France with one of my host families.
Okay.
But the Rotary Exchange was a wonderful program, and I was able to stay with different host families to get different experiences in different folks' homes. And learn different, customs in different parts of the country. So I got to travel all the way from Cornwall all the way up to Scotland, and then a little short trip down to France.
So how long have you been actually brewing?
That was a good question. We started brewing, Brian and I, my partner, now husband. We started home brewing, and I would say probably the mid-90s.
Okay. Yeah.
Just for ourselves, you start out as a home brewer and you have saved 2.5 cases of bottles, and you bottle condition your beer, and we kind of stopped doing that because we got busy with careers. I have a background in theater arts and stage management and design.
Nice.
And I think we got back into it when the kids were born.
Sure.
So you don't make a ton of money in theater, art management, and design. So we made a deal
Or
that...
when you're starting a brewery.
True. So we made a deal that I would stay home with the kids, and then I would have a plan when they hit kindergarten. So I got chickens, I got bees, made a big garden, made wine, and I got really serious about home brewing, and the home brewing bug bit hard. So I started growing our own hops and just talking to tons of other brewers and just learning as much as I could.
Where did you get the hops from to plant? Do you know where they were from?
The first 3 sets of rhizomes that I got was from my friend Jerry. He was just here today for the eclipse. It was Liberty and Centennial and Cascade were the first 3 that I started with. But we got a little crazy after that. We started looking for some of the wild New York hops. We were able to find a couple spaces that had them, so you get dressed up like a ninja and go and dig up a few rhizomes and bring them home and plant them.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, all of those historical hops tend to be of the nugget or the cluster style. So they're a little grassy, and they're not quite necessarily what a modern beer drinker is looking for.
I see. And so we hear like mosaic hops or West hops. Did you ever get into those?
Yeah, so we started out when we took over this space here. We started a farmer's market outside. So meeting more farmers and learning more about agriculture in New York, we thought it was a really important thing for us to stick with New York agriculture. So we're strictly a New York farm brewery. Under the law, we're required to source a minimum of 60% of our hops and our grain from New York, and that's going to go up in several years to 90%. And I said, why wait? Let's just do it now.
Absolutely.
So I've crafted all of our recipes to be 90 to 100% New York State.
Yeah.
So everything that we have here on the table is 100% New York.
I was going to say,
That's great.
That's awesome. And we we thank you for doing that, because it's nice to meet people who are in this industry that really care about local farms, local ingredients, because it's how we keep each other, safe and afloat and financially stable. And this place, I drove by this so many times before you were the owner of this place, and I'd love to hear, and I didn't know any history about it, and I'd love to hear this from you.
Okay, it's very funny because we actually have a T-shirt that says, "I drive by there all the time."
Oh, really?
So when did this open? When did you open this brewery?
Oh, we opened in August of 2019, 6 months before COVID hit.
Perfect.
Tough.
Perfect.
period.
Yeah.
But the quick story was in 1921. My husband's great-grandfather, Frank Sotherden, built this as a feed mill.
Well, all Franks are successful. So.
You're just taking credit.
So Frank ran it for years as a feed mill, and of course, everything around here was all farms at that time. And then his son, Don, took over the business, and it converted slowly into an agway, feeds and needs and backyard gardeners things. And over that time, more folks moved into the area, and those farms became more homes. And they slowly shifted into a fuel oil business, and then it was time for Grandpa Don to retire. When he retired, then they rented the building out to several different other companies. So it was a small engine repair, and then they expanded, moved down the road. That's Mahindra Tractor down here on Route 31. And then after them, I think there was a limo company in there at one point. And then the last big user was the Animal Kingdom Vet Hospital. They expanded and moved down the road as well. They're now the Central New York
My
Vet
dogs
Hospital.
used to go to them.
Yeah.
I used to come down here and get free pellets, like.
Yes, that's
Right
right.
in the
There was a
road
pallet
next-
company right behind us. Yeah, right off of Weller Canning Street.
Yeah.
So in any case, when the vet expanded and moved out, there was a lull of time that there was nobody here. Grandfather Don passed away, and the family decided, well, there was no one doing business, so we didn't really need to hold the building. So they decided to sell the building at that point, and it sat vacant for a long time. And we actually had this business plan intended for somewhere else completely different, and it didn't work out. And it's all for the best, because as much as we loved that space, it wasn't clearly meant for us. We lost that deal in a phone call one night. It was not a happy time for us. But this place came up for tax auction, and we already had the business plan, and we're like, I've got an idea.
Plus, to keep it in the family is such a great
It had passed out of the family, so that was the thing. The person that held it, that's the way it goes sometimes.
Did I read somewhere there was all these feed mills you're talking about. Wasn't it the Cigarville?
Yes,
and
correct.
There was a sauerkraut business, maybe?
Yes, correct. So in the same location, right behind this building, there was a cigar factory, and you'll notice on the train station across the tracks here, it says Cigarville. So this area, again, was lots of farms back in the 1800s, and it was a great place for growing tobacco. So they did grow tobacco.
Did they sell cigars out of it? Is that what it was?
Definitely did.
Is that a post office now, or it was a post office?
No, so the cigar factory, apparently they had a little bit of a labor dispute, and it burned down mysteriously one night.
These accidents happen, yeah.
It got too hot out.
It was an eclipse.
And then after that, it was the Weller Canning Company, and they made sauerkraut. So folks that live here still remember when there were sauerkraut, and it smelled like sauerkraut here, and it was just one of those things.
What time period is that? Like 60s or?
Yeah,
earlier,
60s. I think that finally closed down in the late 60s.
Okay.
I believe. Yeah.
And then from the 60s till?
So after the Weller Canning Company closed, then there was a company out back that made wooden pallets. And at the beginning of the pandemic, he was looking to sell the business because his family wasn't interested in keeping going. And then COVID hit, and he's like, yeah, I think we're done. So he sold to a company. They do self-storage now.
Oh, I see. I think it's amazing when I hear breweries open their brewery up around COVID.
Yeah.
And to not only that they just starting out, but to survive through COVID at that stage when you're just starting out. I mean, it's tough as it is to start.
It's barely surviving, sure.
And then to do that during COVID, and I cheers to that. I think that's.
Thanks. Cheers.
Yeah, it's tough.
Well, as the saying goes, you've invested everything, so failure is not an option.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't
We're
have
not
anywhere
going to
else
give
you
up.
can go, for sure.
We just
Persistence and drive, absolutely. Who came up with the whole design of what this place is going to look like?
Well, Brian and I are pretty close on the design of the whole facility. But when it says on our menu downstairs, it's a family-owned and operated brewery, it is the truth. So it's Brian and I are the co-owners, but his father, Steve, is a great influence. His mother, Joan, is a wonderful influence in keeping, us all going as a family and keeping the kids occupied while we're at work. But the kids work here now. They're teenagers, so you'll see them around moving garbage and, parking cars and things.
That's what family operated means.
Yeah, exactly.
Free labor. Yeah. But we'll take people around if you have time to see the rest of this and some of these other things we're talking about as far as Cigarville and some of these other pallet businesses. But you can tell the design. I mean, we'll show people here, but there's it's like an Verdi container. That was what they're called.
The shipping container.
Yeah, shipping container. Right.
The shipping container is our entrance.
Yeah,
that was a nice touch.
Great job. Yeah.
Well, when we had that farmers market, we had spent a lot of time in this outside space, and Route 31 is a very busy road. So we noticed that if there was some kind of a car or something parked in between us and the road, that it stopped a lot of the noise and, would take away from, the enjoyment of the outside space. Yeah. So when we were in the design process, Brian's like, you know what, we need a container. Yep. So it was only made one crossing, came from China, made one crossing, and now it's our entrance.
Yeah, so it's like like an industrial farming sort of motif here. Is that what you
very much industrial. Yeah, I would say industrial.
I know there's some old equipment we see down there, and some rustic sort of iron things.
The mix of iron,
railroad things,
springs for spring stools. Yeah,
correct.
The mix of iron and wood is like my passion for like custom woodworking, and it's just such a cool look to get that refurbished wood.
Everything is original.
Yeah,
and that's the great thing too.
And it's timeless, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get old. And in 20 years, you're not gonna be like, oh, that's terrible. If people that like listen to us or what you're doing is they appreciate this sort of history of it. You know?
Lou, give us a little background on your process of brewing this beer. It's not at this location, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So that was the one really big drawback about this location is there are no sewers here, and brewing is a very water-intensive process. So we don't have enough land here to put in a large enough septic system. Other folks do that very successfully, out further out in the country where they have more space. We just didn't have the space to do that. So we had to figure out another way to make beer someplace else that isn't here. So as far as I know, I'm the longest running alternating proprietorship in New York State, which means a fancy word to say that I'm a tenant in someone else's brewery. So we own a fermenter there, and I have to, ask to get put on the schedule. So they have their production schedule. I have my production schedule. I maintain all of our recipes and our ingredients separate from them. So when I come into the building, ta-da, it's now my brewery. And when I leave, then ta-da, now it's back to them.
I see. Yeah. It's nice that there are brewers that are willing to do something like that, because it is...
Brewing is a real brotherhood, sisterhood.
I was just going to say, we even meet people online who are beer enthusiasts. And their passion for beer is about helping for other brewers to survive. And we met some people across this country, all the way in California, who created organizations of beer enthusiasts to do things like what we're doing. We're marketing, we're trying to spread the word, let people know more about the breweries. And they did that successfully and helped many brewers during COVID to survive.
During COVID to get people to go to the places that we're able to be.
And amazing what we're learning. Every brewer we sit down and interview to learn that kind of camaraderie among other brewers.
Yeah.
For sure. That's
really
awesome.
fun when you get to sit down with beer and chat.
It's
you guys know.
So that's part of what we do, but we also appreciate the story, the history, but meeting good people. It's really not just drink beer and let's just get it over with. It's all of it that's involved, because it's really a lot of people probably don't know how much is involved other than when you sit and drink it. Like, how did they get there?
Yeah.
What is this history sort of thing? So you've got future plans for brewing?
Oh my goodness, we're so excited. So we understand Micron is building a gigantic chip plant 400 yards from our front door.
Oh, I didn't realize it was even that close.
It's that close.
Yeah, okay.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
They're talking 3 shifts, 24/7. I'm like, gosh, we might have to open the brewery 3 shifts, 24/7.
Those people will probably drink.
Yeah, you know.
They might bring a sewer line over here, and you might be able.
We're
to,
very
hey,
hopeful that will happen
Yeah.
soon. So we've heard a lot of rumors and hearsay, but we don't have any definite time plans yet. So until we hear something definite, we're just going to keep doing what we've been doing so far.
Once they break ground, a multi-billion-dollar project like that, they're gonna steam ahead.
I think so. Yes, it feels that way.
It doesn't feel like they're going anywhere, considering what they have invested into really being here.
We agree. Yeah.
How wide they are spreading their presence within our county. And they specifically said, we want to make sure everybody prospers for our existence here. So they are reaching out to a lot of programs, donations, trying to find a way. And I'm sure they're going to be interested in helping you out, because they're going to have a lot of workers close by. They need to come out here and enjoy a good beer, enjoy a good meal.
Well, we'll have to send this to Mr. Mahotra. We'd love to be the official beer of Micron.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, we'll endorse it. This is good stuff. We've not had bad beer, but how would that look for you for brewing? You'd have to put it in another building?
We have another building.
Oh, okay.
So,
we'll see that,
over time we've been able to pick up a couple of properties that are nearby, just as they came up for sale, and we're hopeful that those investments will pay off.
Has the transport of the beer been difficult?
I move every keg with these 2 hands.
My gosh.
I brew on several different systems right now. So primarily it's a 3.5 barrel in the front brewery at Chatham Brewing. So they're my host brewer at this point. That's where my license is held. So a 3.5 barrel I can fit in the back of my pickup truck.
Okay.
And drive across New York State. Occasionally I'll double batch, so that's a 7 barrel. So I have to leave half there, drive half, go back and get the other half and bring it. Sometimes I triple batch 10 barrels. Sometimes I go as far as 20 barrel batches. And I've now found out, working through freight companies, that I can palletize all of my kegs. Thanks to the guys at Saranac, they helped me figure that part out, the FX Mat company.
Oh, thank you guys.
That will be picked up in Chatham, put on a freight truck, and shipped straight here. So I don't have to put it in the back of the truck. But yeah, it's too much for my little pickup truck. So
I was gonna say maybe either an investment into a bigger vehicle, or if something's gonna be closer, then you can hold off on that.
the pickup works pretty darn good right now. But I'm so hopeful that someday we'll be able to brew out in the back building here, and I won't have to do that anymore. That'll be really, really fun.
We'll be looking forward to that. I wanted to ask, what your husband played a big role. What does your husband do now?
He is part of the professional development program at SUNY Albany, so he does computer programming, mostly to support state-funded programs. So it's a lot of online learning, and he was doing that before COVID, and of course now everyone's doing online learning, so it's definitely
And he's a
something.
musician?
He's a musician, so
Okay,
we can hear him in the background. He's on stage right now.
So this fantastic background music is what's your husband's name?
Brian.
Brian. And I apologize if I forgot.
No, it's fine. Yeah,
I'm
no
terrible
problem.
with names.
You haven't even met him. We'll have to meet him.
Absolutely. Frank's good with names. He remembers them, and I'll start a conversation. I'll look at him, and he knows. So
It's just weird.
we're good
I don't know why.
partners.
Names and numbers, but whatever. it's a curse more than a blessing, because it just runs through your head. But we can hear the music, and I know you had a story about that, and he's been doing it for quite a long time. But then this is the first time out.
Yeah, he's been playing all his life, keyboards primarily, but he's picked up other instruments along the way. And he has a good friend, Chris Burt, who is one of our neighbors, and they get together and just jam all the time. And they've been playing for the last few years pretty seriously, at least 2 or 3 nights a week.
Everywhere or just here?
At home.
Oh, okay.
They have not played out until today. Today's their debut.
Wow,
Nice.
today.
Yeah.
Oh, that. Well, we'll have to congratulate him when we meet him for sure.
What a great day to remember! Like, this
It's a solar eclipse. It's your
Our first
husband's
interview with BrewsNBanter.
first interview with BrewsNBanter.
First off, I hope as many.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
We'll see how the interview ends, because we like to ask people. You might be like,
Yeah, you guys are done.
But yeah.
The beer is delicious. I love it. I'd like to know what are your, besides what Micron is going to bring, have you set maybe goals within the next few years, 5 years? Do you have a kitchen here? I didn't even
We
ask.
don't.
Okay, is that something in the plans?
So it's not been my passion to cook. I enjoy cooking for my family, enjoy cooking for friends, but not as a commercial chef. Part of my background in working in theaters was working at Jacob's Pillow, and I helped kind of, supervise around the edges of some pretty large, cooking facilities. And it's just not my passion. But I understand chefs who are so passionate about their food, and they spend all the time worrying about, the things that they put out of their kitchens. I respect that hugely because it's very similar to what I do with beer. So we were able to make partnerships with the Syracuse Food Truck Association. We're lucky to be just 12 minutes from downtown.
Yeah.
So those food trucks, in the summertime, there's more of them rolling around, but in the wintertime, there's a handful that still keep, rolling around. And we've made partnerships with many of them and have them come back year after year. So when you come here on a weekend at Freight Yard Brewing, typically Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we'll have a different food truck every night.
Sure.
So
That's amazing.
it's really great because you always have a different menu. It's always something new.
And you guys keeping them in business and eliminates probably responsibilities and permits of having a kitchen for you.
All
So
those things.
I think that's a great
Well,
combination.
still more local support and all these
Yeah.
things. And yeah, it's so you guys are pet friendly also?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So we've had, just this last weekend, we had a lizard, we had a cat, and then probably 20 dogs in the yard
Sure.
right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, leash-friendly dogs are always welcome.
Right.
We're trying to keep a directory of breweries where people who are maybe traveling or locally, they want to go online. I know there's Google, but we're trying to, we're mostly concentrating on breweries.
Yeah.
So they can just go on our website, look up pet-friendly,
Yeah.
breweries, and they'll see, what's around them and
Yeah.
visit those breweries. We're both dog owners. We love pets,
Right.
and
I understand Prison City does Yappy Hour. I think that was a really good idea.
Yeah.
you could do Yippee Hour.
Yeah. Those dogs are little, the little ones that are like Chihuahuas or something. We're just like, they don't stop, That's
They have opinions. They have to get them out.
And some breweries that are pet friendly, they are limited to keeping pets outside of the buildings because of the
Usually
health
because of the
codes.
kitchen,
Yeah, you
yes.
cannot have them indoors. So there's some limitations with that. Those that don't, sometimes I've seen pets just walking in and out of the building. There's no
Yeah.
kitchen, so that works. And there's other sections of this interview I want to get into, but I need more beer. If it's okay.
I like a beer
Can we
intermission.
get one
This
of
is
those
a good
here?
one.
You
Yeah.
think you can find one?
Absolutely.
I think
And
have
we
to pick
can.
from,
I
right,
think there might
I
be
would
a few
like
downstairs.
your suggestion for the next one.
Okay.
So Lou, we're back from our break. Give us a little background on what we're drinking here.
So I switched over to the Codnoy Cream Ale.
Okay.
It's one of my favorites.
I love it.
You're drinking the Gandy Dancer Red Ale. Gandy Dancer was a worker on the railroads. So they were the men that would,
nail the
alternate.
spikes.
Yeah, they
Okay.
would alternate,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so they were called Gandy Dancers.
Interesting.
And you're drinking the Lou Castle Brown Ale.
You mentioned it, and it's delicious. I was saying downstairs how smooth it has that approach in the beginning, and there's not too much bitterness. Like what would be IBU on this?
He got it right.
Okay. I thought you were about to correct me. I was
No,
like,
he called them IUBs earlier.
he would give me so much shit about
Do you know what
this.
it stands for?
International Bitterness Units.
Yeah.
There you go. Now you got it.
Well, I did the Cicero. I did I'm the certified beer server part of it.
Yeah.
But I just like to pick on Roman because he wasn't really in the craft
He
beer
gave
at the
me so
beginning.
much shit. One misprint. It's like my wife.
Yeah.
I will mispronounce something. I'm not from United States, obviously, and English is my third language. So every time I'd mispronounce something, my wife is like, "What did you say?"
Yeah.
And she gets excited. She gives me shit.
we were talking about sexual fetishes, and then we got into talking about feet, and then Romans called them a footish.
Hey, 3 languages. That's not bad. So what 3 languages? That's really cool.
So I spoke Armenian growing up. I'm Armenian. I have a little bit of Greek in me. And then my family migrated from Armenia because of conflicts, and I lived in Russia. And then I was 12 when I moved to the United States.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was actually studying.
Those are not any of the easier
No,
languages.
and while I was in Russia, I had to study Deutsch. You're required to learn another language.
Right, yeah.
I was almost fluent in that because our class was going to go to Germany.
Yeah.
And last year, I did go to Belgium. I was in France. You mentioned you were in France. Then I went to Belgium, and I went to beer museum in Belgium.
Yeah.
It's this tiny little thing. You go in the
Yes.
basement, and it was cool. I took some footages. But yeah, those are the languages, and I enjoy learning new language because it's there's culture behind it. And no matter what country you're in, they have beer, and you can have conversation over a beer.
Hey, listen, Belgium, that's one of the better places, in my opinion,
Yeah.
to travel to taste beer. Brian and
Okay.
I got to spend I think we spent 10 days traveling between Amsterdam and down through Belgium and back to Amsterdam, just drinking beer, just going to
Nice.
different places. And Bruges was my favorite place for drinking beer.
Okay, sure.
And one thing that was so surprising to me, that every brewery there has their own glass. So there's giant walls of different types of glasses, and you match the glass to the brand of beer. So when you're drinking a
I
beer, it
see.
has the label on the
I
front,
see.
and that's what you're drinking.
I see.
That's very cool.
We were in Paris for holidays, and we decided to hire some drivers. We had 2 vans, multiple families, and we went to Belgium. And I was like, honey, I love you. And
That was the beer
please,
talking.
can I have some time? I need to go try out some beers.
It's research time.
Yeah, but she's
That's what we call it, yes.
she's a great support. She didn't give me any shit about it, and she's like, absolutely, let's go pick one place. We sat down to eat. We tried their beer. I even walked away from them while they were touring the old area in Belgium there, and I went to beer museum and quickly ran into another brewery, had another beer there, but it was fun. I can't wait to go back and after all these crazy events happening in Europe, hopefully they'll be over soon and we can go back and really actually enjoy it.
I will drink to that.
Yeah, cheers.
To peace.
To peace, for sure. And those farmers are the ones who are struggling, who are providing these breweries probably with, there might be farmers for hops and the struggle. We just left on time. There were protests already, but I don't want to make this about me. Struggles in Europe are happening now, and we talked about the COVID you went through, struggle opening a place at the beginning of that whole thing. Give us a little bit of drama, right? Like there's owning a business. It doesn't come without struggles or times when you're like, sometimes it just takes a mental strain and just drains you of that drive sometimes. Is there something you're willing to share that was just so hard to get over, to get this going and keep it running and keep that motivation?
You're not wrong. We've had some really difficult times. I think the thing that is the toughest for me is being a mom and not being with the kids all the time and being on the road more, But at the same time, I have to say that they've grown a lot and they trust each other. And Dad has been fantastic in keeping them going and motivated when they're home without me. So being away from them has been a real challenge for sure. But also figuring out all the things we had to figure out. Like I said, we had this whole business plan someplace else. We all would have been together in one place. And the way that we're doing things now, we're not. So the logistics, just all the things that are in my head that I have to just keep doing all of the things all at the same time. Managing this building, our wonderful staff downstairs have been such a help to us. Just so trustworthy and honest and knowledgeable about beer, and also their interpersonal relationships. It's things you can't train them to do, that they just came to us with. So that's been a blessing. I think the darkest time that we had probably was in the rezoning of this building. Like I said before, when the building had passed out of the family and we were able to get it back through that tax auction, This was zoned industrial. The zoning came with certain rules. You can do these things, but you cannot do these things unless you go to the board and apply and do all of these things. It took us almost 3 years to get through that process.
Wow, 3 years.
That was a long time. And there were several times along that journey was like, are we stupid? Is this pointless? Are we gonna get through this? Or am I stubborn enough and just I know this is gonna work. I know it is. I just have to give me a chance, you know? So, but there were some days where it's like, are we stupid? Why am I doing this? Driving across the state in the middle of the night to go to a board meeting and to have them say, change these 3 things and we'll see you next month.
Right.
It was like, it was really disheartening.
It's almost
but
like...
we believed in it, and we had so many family members supporting us that I think that's what got us through. You know,
so
Brian and I, but really our extended family around us saying, you make good beer. We think you've got something. Keep going. You know, we'll watch the kids. We'll take on this. We'll take on that. And here we are.
So
it worked.
When you said family owned and operated, it was operating, and the support of family was even through the beginning process of it.
Tremendous.
And
Yeah.
every little thing, like, we'll watch your kids today. Just that one day could have been the day you drove out there and finally got that approval.
Yeah.
You know, like, didn't miss the appointment. Or and sometimes when these
And I also have to give a shout out to our community as well, because in those 3 years that we went through the zoning, we did a farmer's market outside in our parking lot. Here.
I remember signs. For
Yes, it was
farmer
Sidetrack
market.
Farmers
Yeah,
Market. That was us.
I remember the sign.
Because we couldn't use the building,
Okay, I thought it was like something.
but we could use the
separate.
parking lot.
Okay, okay, good.
But they wouldn't. They wouldn't let us use the bathrooms in the building, so we had to rent porta potties to have the farmers market. It was very frustrating. But those folks that were with us through those farmers market days were like, the beer you're making's kind of good. You should keep doing this. So we just kept going. They came to support us at the board meetings. That was
Family
was
support
everything.
and friend support as well. And I hope you can consider us as friends.
I do.
And,
Cheers.
And cheers.
Well, I think a big part of success is who you surround yourself with. You know what I
True.
mean? Like, you got a staff and family, and
Absolutely.
a lot of people can't do it on their own. Or
No,
most people
you
cannot.
can't.
No.
And it's hard to give up control.
Right.
It's hard to trust
Yes.
sometimes, but sometimes you just have to trust.
But then look at the reward, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Look, days like today,
Yeah.
you look around and you're like, it's working.
yeah.
It's actually working.
And the fact is, you're not at the peak yet. You know?
Oof.
Yeah.
From your lips to God's ears. So,
It's there's you have plans and
We do.
there's things to do. So,
We do.
But now, hopefully, the hardest part of that is done for you guys.
here's hoping.
that hurdle is over, and as friends, we will do any small contribution that we can with the podcast, with spreading the word, with talking about it, with even marketing online. You know, on social media is a great resource too.
So true.
And we'll continue.
Yeah, good people meet
We
good
wanna
people.
we wanna keep going back to breweries and continuing exposing their stories, because the time we interview you today, you might be in a different place 2-3 years from now.
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere. Our families are. Let me say, for the next 20
If you're
years.
gonna make if you're gonna make
15
an age
years.
reference, I'll backhand it.
Come on, you love me. And so our goal is to keep doing this. Podcasting is struggling business. We're always in negative. It's not like we're profiting from this, but it's a passion and hobby we have, that we are continuing to do this.
And it's a fun release. I mean, we actually get to have some fun, and everybody's got rough work weeks, and you've listened, you know what we do, and the things, the banter we got back and forth. So it's a little bit of, it's like dinner with friends, except we're recording it.
Yeah.
Exactly, and then we make new friends every time, and we hear new stories every time. Success, struggles, hardships, tears, happiness.
There's reality, yeah.
Reality,
Yeah.
and that happens over a beer with friends. And I thank you for sharing the reality of. Off camera, I told you there was hardship when I started businesses, and it's important to have to have the family and friends behind you. So thank you for sharing that. Would you like to add something that we haven't maybe asked, or things that you're planning? Oh, one more thing about certification. Sorry, I'm like all over the place.
Yeah, it's all good.
But we interviewed someone, and they're friends of ours as well. They said they had to get certification or qualification per beer that you're making. What's that process? Can you explain that?
So one of the things that is required by New York State, well, there's two different things. So the federal government, when you first want to start a brewery, you have to be approved by the federal government to do so, and that doesn't cost anything. It's paperwork, and it takes time for that approval to come through. And then you have to go to the state level, and the state level looks at a more granular level, and they check with the town that you're in, that it's okay with the town, and they check a bunch of different things in your background, fingerprints and photographs and all of those things. But for certain beers, once you're approved, once you're finally open, ta-da, we're open as a brewery, you have to go and ask the federal government for permission to brew with certain ingredients. So right now I have a beer downstairs. It's a proof of concept beer. It's not for sale. I can't give you any. Okay. But it has lavender and lemon in it.
Oh, wow.
I love it. I think it's fantastic. So one of the gateway beers for me getting into brewing was Empire Brewing made a beer called White Afro. And it was just next level. It just blew my mind.
Right.
It's a wheat beer with lavender and lemon.
Okay.
And I was like, I can make it better. So I have my version, but I have to go through a federal process in order to get permission to use lavender. There's something about lavender that apparently you need permission to do. So this is a time-consuming process that you have to go through all of this paperwork to get permission to use certain ingredients. Additionally, the state has a separate process where you have to get brand label approval. So you have to send just the name, it's on a piece of paper.
For each beer.
Every single beer. Yeah. You have to have brand label approval, and you have to renew it every year if you wish to continue using that brand.
And what's that approval process per label? I mean, you send it in today, you get it next month or next week?
$10, we'll get it to you in 3 weeks on paper, maybe a month.
This is so we've been talking
and
to.
then you have to renew it every year.
Right.
So, it's a lot of money if you've got like a long portfolio of beers that you wish to continue producing.
So you need to renew it before it expires so you can keep selling it in the renewal process?
It's an annual thing. So say, for instance, I invent a beer in February, I have to apply in February, but then June comes and I have to re-up.
Oh, okay. I see.
So it's a June annual.
Yep. Okay.
So we've been trying to find a brewery to collaborate and do Brews and Banter beer.
Yeah.
And
which could be lavender and lemon. You be lavender, I'll be lemon.
some of our friends who are brewers said it's just a matter of getting the label approved.
Yes.
And that's the process.
Yes.
That's the process. And you, like you said, it could be 10 days, 3 weeks, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, State Liquor Authority does work with our New York State Brewers Association. They have a very good relationship, so they hear our hardships and struggles, and they do make changes as time goes by. But sometimes the law is the law, and they have to apply the law equally. So we understand that, and we.
And this is all great stuff that people don't know.
Oh yeah.
You go to a bar, you get a beer, but
Yes, right.
it's there's so much on the back end. Right?
Yes, yeah. It turns out they like to know where their tax dollars are. So
that's the main thing.
We got to keep it clean for them. You know what I mean? We got to
Funny,
keep up.
the federal government doesn't need to
Oh, they tax us too.
They tax you, but they don't need to account for what they're doing with the money.
That's another podcast.
That's a
podcast with more swearing words. But the lavender lemon beer you can't sell.
Correct.
But
Until I get approval.
You can let people try.
No,
really?
No, not on camera. You cannot do that. No.
Nope.
So if you're a home brewer and you made beer at home,
That's different because you're not selling it. It's not in commerce.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you're not.
Right. If I were a home brewer and you came over to my home, I could say, "Here you go. Hey,
It's a
try
gift.
this."
It's like giving us dumplings or cupcakes.
Yeah.
As a
right. You don't
business-
need to be, the health department doesn't have to inspect your kitchen.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
So as a business, experimental beer cannot be shared for tasting or things like that before you decide to go into like production?
That's my understanding.
Okay,
So
so-
I try and keep everything
safe with it, for
squeaky
sure, yeah.
clean.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
I just want to
absolutely.
make sure that we're paying attention and the rules are there for a reason. So
That comes through, clear it right away. Absolutely. Before I interrupted myself, I was going to ask you if there's something that we maybe missed or haven't talked about.
you haven't sworn enough. I'm disappointed.
I'm trying to fucking
You
swear as much as I
give
can.
us the opportunity. Like, this is fucking great
Yeah.
beer.
But
Did you kiss your mother with that mouth?
Not with an open mouth. Anymore.
yeah.
Too
but
much.
no, we swear a lot on our podcast, and then
I think it's fucking hilarious.
we there you
I'm
go.
all for it.
There you go.
Thank you for listening to us.
Yeah, and we appreciate that, and sometimes we just, like you said, we're trying to read the room a little bit, ease into it, because sometimes
This
you can
nice
just,
lady brewer, she's never heard these words.
Well, you're talking about squeaky clean. I'm like, oh no, what's going on?
our every interaction at the brewer events is always so lovely, so nice. You were so approachable, easy to talk to, and we got to get to know each other. It's like we got to have more than one date before we,
Right.
we can
That's not how
open
we
up.
did it though. That didn't work for us. On our first date, that's not what happened.
We bonded right away. Yeah, but is there anything else about the brewery, about your story and your history that you'd like to add for listeners?
Yeah, anything you'd like to mention, share? Or,
Anything to promote?
Yeah, we're really excited about the summertime because here at Freight Yard we have a lot more space outside than we do inside.
I want to personally thank you for your parking lot, by the way.
Why?
That's amazing. It's there's no potholes, there's no stone. It's all painted, like it's
Plenty of
nice.
space between
suspension.
cars.
The car says thank you very much.
Yeah.
But it is nice. You do have a lot of room to
Thank you.
we will explore.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely do a tour. Yeah, here before you go. But in the summertime we have we're playing Cornhole League on Tuesday. We do Pitch League on Wednesdays. We do trivia on Thursdays. Live music Fridays and Saturday nights. Sunday fun day. We do all kinds of crazy craft classes and the paint and sip. We've got Pilates coming later this month. So all kinds of things to bring different folks in.
Pilates and beer?
Pilates and pints. Yeah.
Pints. Okay, cool.
Well, she said pints, but maybe it's not beer.
We do have more than beer downstairs, so we get that. Not everybody digs a glass of beer, so we do have wine and cider and seltzer and a lot of non-alcoholic options as well.
Perfect.
That's an interesting. How's that sale going with non-alcoholic stuff?
Surprisingly well. So I think folks get into that dry January kind of mindset, and some folks stick with it. So we do have kombucha now. We have different craft sodas. We have some craft seltzers. Even juice boxes for the kids, because mom and dad come with a couple of kids, and mom and dad can sit and enjoy a few moments, and the kids have fun with their juice box and playing in the yard. So it works out.
You're the second person we're talking to that mentioned kombucha.
Yeah.
What's the alcohol percentage in that?
0.5.
0.5, and that's
that's
the limit, right?
non-alcoholic,
To
right?
Correct.
be considered non-alcoholic.
Correct.
Okay, and
And most of them are considered tonics. So it's an adaptogen. So it's an herb or a spice that has an effect on the body to improve circulation or to improve, something that's off. It's more of a restorative drink.
my friend
Okay.
is a Muay Thai instructor, and I take lessons from him, and he loves kombucha.
I'll still kick your
And
ass.
yeah, that's okay. And just because I'm letting you, not after you have a few beers, then we'll be wrestling.
2 or 3 red ales, we're done.
Is kombucha have yeast in it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's where it gets its sparkling from. Some of them are sparkling. They have that carbonation level to them.
Yeah.
Some of them I found to be a bit more flat. We have 3 different varieties downstairs, and I've only had one of them. The other 2 were recommended to me, and I said, we'll try these. And I haven't even had them myself, but they're selling, so it's great.
When we started this podcast, we tried to keep up with some beer news and with breweries, what's happening. So randomly in our podcast, we'll add some beer news and updates. But what has been consistent growth is breweries becoming more family-oriented locations. And like you said, kids come over here. I was at a brewery not far from here, and the entire family, grandparents, 2 generations, and the little kids all came. They had a long table and they had a great family dinner. They had beers.
Family style thing.
And I think that also came from my experience being in Europe.
Oh,
Because
okay.
that's the way that things are at
yeah.
English pubs. Everyone goes. You know, it's like a communal living room. And that's what we've tried to do here, is to make it like a community living room.
The life in Europe seems a little bit more relaxed. Like, I would walk through streets of Paris 2, 3 in the morning, and people are still sitting at the cafes.
Oh, yeah.
We would go for dinner at 6. We're like, okay, it's 6 o'clock. We got to make a reservation. It's gonna be packed. We show up, it's empty.
Yeah.
By the time we're done eating, we're leaving. It's like
We're not eating till like 10
8 or 9. People are starting to arrive. I'm like, I like this schedule.
Yeah.
And then, you know, my brother-in-law, we live far apart. We were just catching up. We went for a walk, just smoking cigars and just talking. And it's like 2 in the morning, and people are sitting at the cafes, just socializing, relaxed.
Do they shut down? Is there time like?
They probably close for like, I don't know, from 3 or 4 in the morning till maybe, I don't know, dinner
It's like New
time,
Orleans. They just
lunchtime.
clean up enough and
Yeah.
But we were just walking. We were so relaxed as well. And next thing we know, like, oh, we're at Eiffel Tower. So we walked for like 25 minutes. And we arrived at the time when they turned those lights, the flickering lights on.
Fun.
Right.
On the Eiffel Tower. And then we're like, okay. And then we rented electric bikes and rode them back because that was enough walking. That was enough walking. But yeah, that lifestyle is so different, and it's nice to see, to go to breweries like this and brewery like yourself, and to see different types of people, just families, just friends, maybe reunion or something. I ran into my neighbor down here when we first arrived. And it's great. I think we need more places like that. And I really...
The family's important for everybody
absolutely.
now. You know.
And how...
It's called that third space, is the way it's described. So you have work, you have home, and then you have a third space.
Okay.
So we want to be your third space. We want you to come and feel welcome.
You're nailing it, by the way, because you see people come in. We talked about at the beginning of this, it's just full. And like, you know, people don't come to a place they don't want to be at. You know, so there's a reason they want to be here, and I'm sure it's because of the way you guys have set it up, and
well, thanks.
and the beer you make. You know? So sorry. Let's talk about distribution.
Okay.
Where can people get your beer?
Here.
It's only here.
I have very, very limited distribution, again, because my production ability is very limited. So I kind of have to prioritize our taps here in the tap room. I have very limited distribution only at Grace Tyler Estate Winery. Again, a good friend that we made over a beer.
Okay.
They have our beer on tap there. We have their wine here. So we opened at the same exact time. Our friends Richard and Elizabeth. It's their winery on the North Shore of Oneida.
We'll have to go visit.
You definitely will.
Absolutely.
It's a wonderful space. And the only other places that I have my beer right now are at the American Legion here in Cicero, at the Air Force Base, at the airport here, and one other VFW on the other side of Eastwood.
But people
And that's it. And it's because we have a lot of friends in the service, police officers, state
big
police.
supporters as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. My dad is a retired police officer, and he was in the Air Force during Vietnam. So it's important to us to honor folks in service. And my mother was a teacher. That's service as well.
Absolutely,
You know.
yeah.
So
That's a different
important
battle.
to us.
That's a battle.
Yes, that is so. Yeah. Third graders, can you imagine?
Oh, I
forget
can't
about it.
imagine. I have many teacher friends, and your wife is a teacher, and
But people can come in here and get it. People
Yes,
can. People.
yes.
You got crowlers and
We
things
do,
like this.
yeah. We have a crowler machine on the bar, so anything that we have on tap, we can put into a crowler. We fill people's growlers if they bring those in as well. And then we have a merchandiser refrigerator as well, because some beer styles I don't produce, but I like to support other local breweries, wineries, distilleries, cideries, so we have those things as well to go.
do you can any of your stuff?
No, not at this time.
So once the production can increase, then you can get into that.
Is that part of the licensing? You got to get something different for any of that, or
Not really. It has more to do with the process of maintaining the quality of the beverage as it goes through the canning line and into the can. So again, because I'm trucking my beer across New York State before it gets to the taps here, you can't really go from a keg into a can. You have to kind of do that as it's in the brewery.
And your growlers, they're glass?
We don't have growlers, but if you bring them in, we will fill them.
Oh,
But
if
we
you
do the
bring your
crowler
own.
cans.
Oh, crowler
Yeah,
cans.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the crowler cans that we used to have the big ones, but we found that folks didn't necessarily want a gigantic 32-ounce beer every night, you know? So we went to the slightly smaller size, the 24 and a half ounces,
Okay.
so a little bit more manageable in one sitting.
And it sells faster, probably.
We do pretty well with those, yeah.
Awesome. Anything you want to add?
Gosh, I can't think of anything. I hope to see you guys again soon. This is really
Absolutely.
fun.
I can't
It was
wait.
a long time coming. I'm glad we were able to
This
get
is
together.
this is a beginning of a long friendship, for sure.
Sounds good to me.
Perfect.
And
Cheers.
cheers, Lou.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.